Our next speaker is Bernie McIntyre from the Toronto Region Conservation Authority. TRCA is a very active leader in sustainability initiatives throughout the GTA and beyond. And Bernie has been at the forefront of work that they've been doing. He's going to talk to us today about some of their energy efficiency programs in the green economy and some of the things that they're doing to model sustainability practices around residences and so on that are absolutely wonderful. They have got some developments happening at Courtright that we're going to hear from Bruno.
Thanks, David. I'm quite an eclectic audience here. I didn't realize how far-flung the reach of LSF is. I don't know how many people know what a conservation authority is. It's a bit of a unique organization to Ontario. We're a regionally based, watershed-based organization as opposed to political boundaries. We have provincial legislation that allows municipalities to create us, but we're a body of the municipalities, but we're one of the few organizations where regional municipalities, Peel, York, Durham, and the City of Toronto get together and collaborate. So my board of directors is made up of politicians from across the Greater Toronto area, which gives us sort of a unique perspective and insights into the municipal and the regional municipal level. When most people in Ontario think of conservation authorities, they think of our work in managing floodplains, or watercourses, valley lands, bugs, birds, fish. I don't do any of that. Back in 2000, 2001, when our organization asked the question, what's our role in sustainability? And we looked at our legacy, we recognized that so much was changing in the world, so much was changing nationally, provincially, and even across our region, that if we didn't get out of the box and start working with and talking to people different from what we normally did day to day, and working with them to understand our organization and the environmental impacts of what they're doing, we didn't think we had a hope. We didn't think that we could actually see the GTA get better. All we could see was it was only going to get worse. So for us, the big transformation was to not just do what we do already, but look at how and what that means to other groups and organizations across the province, across the GTA, the province, and across Canada. So much of the work and when we went out to talk about this to our stakeholders, one of the first places they said we should start with sustainability was around energy. So whenever I come up to an organization like this, I have to explain, and I put a title up that says, Toronto Region Conservation, Energy Efficiency in the Green Economy. People don't understand why we're even at the table. And for us, it's all about that interconnection of the environment to all of that. You know, when cities talk about growing green, how they're going to generate economic activity, they're looking at how they're going to reduce the environmental impact of that. Puts us squarely at the table. It's that reduction in environmental impact that we think is so terribly important. That if we're going to grow, we have to grow in a way that allows us to work within the constraints of the resources we have available, or to improve those resources. We also think when people start talking about the green economy, they start talking about green jobs, and for many people, that just means somebody who builds solar panels somewhere. And we think that it's much broader than that, and that everybody is part of that green economy. When we start to look at work in a warming world and how they look at greening jobs and work is what we need to focus on. Especially if we're looking at how we're going to reduce that environmental impact, and especially if we want to see sustainability, the green economy, and a greener environment as part of everyone's activity. If we want to see everyone as our clients as we move through this, as David said earlier, transformation to a green economy. Everybody has to see themselves as part of that future. So we've been working with a number of groups over the last almost 15 years, I guess, 13 years, around energy efficiency, but in a whole bunch of different programs. I'm just going to talk quickly about 3 of those, but some of you may know us through we're creating the largest eco-business zone. We used to say North America, but we believe it's in the world around the airport. So the Greater Toronto Airport Authority is working with us to engage 12,500 businesses, 350,000 employees around the airport to make that the largest eco-business zone. We're working with municipalities at a new level around neighborhoods, trying to engage residents in sustainable neighborhood retrofit action plans and really make sustainability real in their neighborhood, so it's not something that somebody else is doing. We're working through our Living City Campus and Sustainable Technology Evaluation Program to proof new technologies and show how they work here so that people can start to build it into their modeling and build it into their plans. But we've also been working in a private-public partnership on energy efficiency. Right from 2003, 2004, trying to change the paradigm on how we approach energy efficiency. We've been working with a group called Interlife Consulting, and it's really about data-driven decision-making and engagement with people around the data and the implications of what they're doing in their day-to-day businesses within those buildings to help them save, to help them strive farther and deeper than any of them believe is possible. So it's been a bit of an uphill battle for them to understand just how much savings we can achieve if we really take a data-driven approach. So one of our programs we've got is greening healthcare, where we're engaging 40 hospitals across Ontario, 15 in Alberta, and we had 9 in New Brunswick. Anybody from New Brunswick? Facilicorp, the province, and Energy Efficiency New Brunswick had a bit of a falling out on who's in charge, and they're no longer in. But anyways, and we've helped them achieve, our program members, through a collaborative learning process to understand who's doing best in energy efficiency, who's doing worse, and helping them to collaborate around what effectively can they learn from each other and implement to get done, and move up our benchmark curves. Mayor's Megawatt Challenge, same thing with municipalities. We've got 13 municipalities, 11 of those in Ontario, but we also have Quebec and New Brunswick represented, trying to reach out and bring all of these groups together around how can you learn from each other to drive deeper in terms of energy efficiency. And the richer discussion we have by looking to that larger audience, and the more best practices we uncover is tremendous. Sustainable schools, which I'll show you a couple of, it's more of a reporting that we've done. Back in 2007, we produced a report that talked about energy efficiency in recently built schools. And people were surprised to find 3, 4, and 5-fold range of energy use per square foot in brand new buildings. Very similar buildings. And it was an eye-opener to say, we're doing something wrong here. So we've produced a number of reports on top-performing schools. And now with the Green Energy Act and the data that's available through it, the transparency associated with many of the public institutions, we're going to be putting out a report later this year looking at the energy efficiency of boards. We have data for about 45 of the 70-some boards in Ontario. But to be able to say, who are the top 10? Where do they stand in terms of their energy use? This curve shows you a benchmark of just elementary schools for the database that we have, and it actually goes from across Canada, not just Ontario. And this is the ones at the bottom of that curve are using a tremendous amount of energy per square foot. The ones at the top are our energy efficiency ones. And there you'll see a target of 12 equivalent kilowatt hours per square foot as a target for them. Part of what we're doing is helping them collaborate, but we're also trying to shift their paradigm. Now, how many of the schools in this case, this curve could translate into commercial buildings, municipal buildings, hospitals, you name it, all in a similar boat. But we're trying to transform the dialogue away from just saving 10% or just saving 15% to how much energy does my building need? That's the outcome we're striving for. So we have to see this, not pat each other on the back for just saving a little bit. If you're at the bottom, you need to be saving 3/4 of your energy. Yes, save 10% on a journey to get you to the top performing, to the target at the 25th percentile. We don't even push people further than that. We're saying, if you can get to the 25th percentile of your peer group, you're doing really well. For schools, that's a $40 million savings per year, just based on the data for 45 boards that we have. For greening healthcare, we have about 20% of all hospitals in Ontario in the program. And when we extrapolate to the whole province, we're looking at $100 million in potential savings. The numbers are enormous. And if you start to look at some of the literature, again, I'm not an economist, but you look at some of the work that's been done up there, energy efficiency is an economic engine. When you look at a dollar invested in energy efficiency, it pays multiple folds in terms of jobs and economic growth. This is just a chart I pulled from a recent study from a Acadia Center. But it's a tremendous lift in our economy, and you're starting to see more and more municipalities focus on this type of thing. The City of London did a tally of how much energy, what's the total energy spend of that municipality, the citizens and the businesses. About $1.3 billion a year. And in a fairly steady state economy within London, Ontario, saving 10% of that and keeping it in the local economy, where right now, 90% leaves the community. Probably 70% leaves the province. And a large portion of that would leave the country. They're saying, my God, if we're going to grow, this is a big source of funds to generate jobs. Let's start saving in those organizations and use that within our local economy. And with it comes the reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. You know, again, with our organization and most people thinking of us as bugs, birds, fish, and floodplains, they miss the point. Some would even say, why are we even talking about climate change as our organization? And for us, we say, my God, how can we in good conscience set limits on development around floodplains when we know that the weather is changing? We know that climate is shifting. We know that intensity of storms are increasing. How do we stand behind development limits that put public property, infrastructure, or people's lives at risk and not play a part in the dialogue around climate change? We have to. And that's just our organization. This transformation we went through back in 2002 to say if we're going to be involved in sustainability, we have to have dialogue on topics and with people outside of who we normally do. That's everybody has to come to that conclusion. Each of us in our organizations have to go through that mental transformation and say, my God, we have to work with other groups. We have to work differently with them. Or we're not all going to be coming to the same conclusions on where we need to get to. And I think with this group in this room, I think there's a literacy around sustainability. I know Pollution Probe now has an energy literacy arm that's going out across Canada. We need to raise the literacy on sustainability and on energy and on all these other topics so people can understand what we're each saying. If you look at the roundtable, it's not about new technology. You know, when the National Roundtable said at one time, we have it all. It's how we communicate, how we get it done that needs to change. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That idea of improving the sustainability